I've had moments where I've really deeply regretted moving back.
हम बेसिकली एक्सपोर्ट का माल थे जो
Yeah,
एक्सपोर्ट हुआ और फिर हम वापस री इम्पोर्ट हो
yeah.
गए
It's really sad state of affairs. There are few groups controlling it. The system is entirely rigged to favor them. Even the likes of Google and Facebook are now not just looking at your degrees. Think beyond Pakistan, target the global audience.
Hello and welcome everyone to Digitales episode 57. My name is Faizan, founder and CEO of East River. And today I have a dear friend of mine. Actually, we went to grad school together. I was studying business. He was the smarter of the two. He did his PhD in computer science. He knows everything about artificial intelligence and he has real intelligence himself. Basit Riaz Sheikh. What's up, Basit?
Hi, Faizan. Thank you for having me over, and thank you for such an elaborate and kind introduction. I really don't know everything about computers, but thank you for that.
No, but what I have missed out is that you also came back to Pakistan around the same time I did,
Yes.
and you and I ended up doing the same things, which is basically launch TV channels. You launched a news channel as the co-founder and managing director, Capital TV. I ended up going into health TV. We did TV for a while until we realized, oh my God, what have we just done?
Yeah. Wow. That was, I don't know. That was such a wrong decision following into your footsteps, right? I remember you telling me this. We were walking in New York and you were like, I'm moving back to Pakistan. And I think I still remember that discussion. We just like done lunch and I'm like, why are you going? What are you going to do? An investment banker moving back to Pakistan. I thought you were going to set up an investment firm. Like, I'm setting up a health TV. And that day I wondered, what is he going to do with health TV, right? And 6 months later, I still remember calling you. I'm like, hey, I'm in Pakistan. He's like, you're back? Like, what are you doing? I'm setting up Capital TV. So, wow, that's how it all started. But it was never supposed to be that way, to be
It was
honest.
never supposed to be that way. When you and I were in grad school studying,
Yeah.
uh, we never imagined that we would be in Pakistan at this point in time, in the situation we are in the country that we surrounded. So, my first question to you is that there's a lot of people who are sitting who were in our shoes 10 years ago, and they're still in their respective like global homes, right? Someone went to London to study, they stayed on, someone went to Australia, someone went to US, someone went to Canada. And they look back at Pakistan and say, Kash, yaar, main Pakistan chala jata. Grass is always greener. I wish I'd stayed there. You and me, we moved back. Do you regret moving back?
Well, it's a tough question, right? So I've had moments where I've really deeply regretted moving back, where I've been like, what did I do with myself? I
Right.
was always very excited about computers, passionate about it, and there were so many things that I could have done there. And then when you look back at like what I've done here, I feel that maybe I would have been better on if I had stayed back, worked on things closer to my field, which I was more academically qualified to do. But then there have also been very satisfying moments here, right? So why did I move back? Like the question that when I regret about moving back, I asked myself this question: why did I move back? Right? I'd been in the US for over 10 years, like my undergrad, my grad masters, PhD. In between, I worked at some of the finest companies there too. It was the longing for home, right? I'd been away for too long. Plus the family, I come from a very close knit family, so that was also an attraction going back. So if I look back from that point of view, the decision that was primarily based on being close to my family, spending some quality time with them, I think on that, I'm perfectly satisfied and all. In terms of what I could have done, professionally, maybe not, because I feel that there were a lot of missed opportunities. But hey, I actually didn't end up doing exactly what I was qualified to do. But over a period of 8 to 10 years now, I've acquired a new skill. I've gotten experience into a very interesting field, which was very tough. But I think now I see a lot more opportunities. So yeah, the regret in parts have been there. But like you said, the grass is always greener on the other side. But if you kind of do a deep introspection, then you say like, yeah, it's never like, it's not like total regret and it's not like 100% satisfaction either.
It's the family, yeah. It's actually, honestly, I think it's the family that keeps us here. I
Yeah.
mean, professionally, if you were to divide your life into four parts, right? So professional, personal, family, and let's say community, right? I think professionally is the one thing that everyone will say, you know what, you're better off being overseas,
Yeah.
because they're just way further ahead in terms of what they're doing, the advancements, and it's just much more
And
interesting.
we were trained for that as well.
And we
It's
were
not,
trained for that, exactly.
yeah, yeah, we spent
हम
time there.
बेसिकली एक्सपोर्ट का माल थे
Yeah.
जो एक्सपोर्ट हुआ और फिर हम वापस री इम्पोर्ट हो गए.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. So good. तो वो थोड़ा बहुत regret तो है, but
हाँ,
now the point is like with the regrets too, I figured out another thing. Right, a few years ago, I was just like deeply regretting everything. Right, and then
right.
I said, it's not going to help me. I really need to find a way out where I can get the best of both. Right. So at some point in this discussion, we will talk about it, like what I'm planning to do and what others can also kind of think, like who kind of feel this way can do about it. Yeah.
So before I jump into that, I want to ask you specifically one question. You actually came back and got into news media,
Yeah.
and there are all sorts of assumptions about news media, the kind of people that operate news media, the kind of people that control news media, and the kind of people that benefit from news media. And you've interacted with all of them. And you're someone who's Western educated, a PhD in computer science from Cornell. So your thinking is completely different from most of those people.
Yeah.
So give me your analysis of news media in Pakistan.
I think you're right. Like when I first moved and started this thing and started interactions with other people who were running the news media, people who
Who is
were
running the news media? That's actually what I want to know.
so they, I would say this is the Gen X who's been running the news media in
But
Pakistan.
who's behind the Gen X? Who's actually calling the shots on news media in this
I think
country?
there are only three or four handful people who appear to be running the system. And since you're a friend, and this is my first appearance on any sort of media.
That's
Talking,
strange. I find that strange. You, a
yeah,
news media guy,
imagine,
owner, and this is
imagine,
the first time you're appearing in public.
yeah. And with
I'm
you,
privileged and
we
honored.
have like some brutally honest sessions. So this time, when I decided to go online for the first time, I decided, and in fact, I was also waiting. Whenever I go, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to be very brutally honest about
Yeah.
it. Right? I think in Pakistan, the way news media is run is just uh, it's really sad state of affairs. There are few groups controlling it. The system is entirely rigged to favor them. We have an
In terms of
association
monetization or in
in,
terms
in
of
terms
news
of
content
everything,
itself?
in terms of everything, right? First of all, in terms of like, for example, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So the first control that you want to exert is by controlling the monetization, by controlling the rating systems, by controlling how you make your money, right? If you make money, then you can control the other sort of things as well. So they have the system rigged in their favor. Maybe they started it previously before others, and they are not like easily giving it away. But what they don't realize is that there is some revolution happening in parallel in the digital space, and they have not caught up with that. And the beauty of this digital revolution that is happening is like it's democratizing the content, democratizing everything, right? And that is where, when if back in 2018 I was sitting with deep regret and thinking, I just want to end this thing, I want to shut it down and all. But from 2018 to 2020, 21, and especially around the COVID period, another opportunity opened up, right, within this media sphere, and that was the digital, right? And that made me realize that finally we have a sort of a system which is no longer rigged, which if you play, like it's a fair system, right? And if you do well, you can carve out a name for yourself or an opportunity for your brand. And that's what we've been able to do.
So you're basically playing the same game of capturing content like everyone else does, but you are probably doing it at a cheaper rate using phones, using a network that you have. But you're now targeting and curating that content for digital audiences because your monetization is online. You don't have to go to the big agencies who decide who's going to pay you, who's not going to pay you, what the rigged system looks like, right? You're getting
Yeah.
paid by YouTube.
So first, what used to happen is that we would make content for our TV, and
Right.
maybe parts and snippets of that would go on our digital, right? And
Mm.
there was no monetization. YouTube and Facebook had not opened up the revenue streams for Pakistan. TikTok had not come to Pakistan. Instagram was still very early. So everything was dependent on these big agencies, right? The rating system, depending, like there are like 500 houses, which some of the big boys always know about it, where those houses are, and they are determining who
Yeah.
gets what to wear.
Yeah.
So, they were controlling everything, right? And now suddenly, with the outburst of like this digital taking off, nobody can control this thing. So now we have reversed the whole thing. We plan everything for digital and then run it on TV, right? Okay, fine. So TV is a secondary thing. Every
Right.
planning, every sort of thing goes for digital, because that is where your current audience and your future audience is sitting there. So we are principally targeting the millennials and the Gen Z. In Pakistan, over 70% of the population is under the age of 30, right?
Correct.
Those are your Gen Z and millennials, right? That's not just your current audience, that's your future audience for the next 3-4 decades, right? And that's what we are focusing on. And with the platforms like YouTube and Facebook, and especially if you do understand how their AI works, which we believe that recently we've been able to do this thing, we're just seeing our numbers skyrocket. I'm like proud to share that over the last 6 months, Capital has been consistently amongst the top three news platforms on YouTube. So
Wow.
that happened because of a consistency on making content, especially targeted towards digital, and kind of understanding how it works. And since the system wasn't rigged, once we started producing the relevant content, the algorithms rewarded us, right? By giving us more impressions, by giving us more audience. So that's what we're really excited about. So that regret, kind of now has turned into an opportunity. And I see, like, there is so much that one can do to expand beyond our current news platform into fields where I feel there's a lot of opportunity, not just in
But
the.
tell me then the content you're making for digital. I mean, how if that content is curated for audiences, let's say under 30, under 25, how are you able to capture audiences on TV, which are on average older audiences, because younger people are not watching TV, using the same content? I mean, then technically, isn't your content redundant on this other medium?
Well, you know what? So basically, it's not like that. We target our content for digital, but there is also that traditional sort of content that we produce that goes on TV, right?
But then why do you need the TV? Like, I mean, look, you're paying, I know how much you're paying in satellite fees, right? For
Yeah.
example, you don't have to pay any satellite fees for YouTube, or even if you have your own, let's say, site where you're
I
broadcasting
think,
media.
in my personal opinion, right, we don't need a TV, right? We don't. It doesn't matter anymore.
So
Like
what is it? Is it a vanity metric?
I think it's an influence metric. In the grand scheme of things in Pakistan and all, it does get you a lot of influence, right? And again, the thing is that it's not that I am setting it up from scratch now. It's been there, right? It's uh, it's been there. It's washed. I get certain revenue out of there. It's not like it's costing me to run it. It's been there. But let's say if you were to ask me that, okay, Basit, if 2 years later you're up for your license renewal, or 5 years later you're up for your license renewal, would you do it, right? Of course, it's not my personal decision alone, like it's a board that's going to decide. But my vote is very clear that we don't need it, because in this age, it is an obsolete sort of medium, and you don't need to work or pay for the satellite fees or pay for the, for example, 24/7 news does not work anymore, right? Why do you? Because I remember we used to fill slots needlessly because we had to fill slots, like it's running all the time. I don't remember. I'm a TV channel executive. I don't remember watching any show or any news bulletin 9 p.m. throughout with the ads playing in between. Like that model doesn't work.
But it's funny you say that, because literally at the end of the 80s, I think it was CNN, Ted Turner, they just launched CNN globally, filling news 24/7.
Yeah.
And what at that time made news a 24/7 thing was the OJ Simpson case.
Yeah.
When there was the car chase scene happening live on TV, I think it was the first time that was broadcast, and the trial was broadcast, and everyone was tuned in, and oh my God, what's going to happen? And that created this market for 24/7 news.
Yeah.
And that market ran, and it created, like, sort of multiple entities, multiple organizations offering news 24/7. Now you're saying 30 years later, 90s, 2000s, and let's say the 2010s, 32 years later, it's obsolete. It's
Yeah.
done.
So the reason I say it, because the mediums have changed, right? Because right now people don't care about. So during those days there was this one medium, your television, right?
Right.
A cable connection, and you were getting 4 to 5 TV channels there, and then you would
True.
just tune in. The news people would tune into the news channel, and they would keep watching it the entire day, right? Now with the smartphones everywhere, right? People are not getting the news from the TV itself. They're getting it through these social media applications.
I
And
get mine through Instagram,
yeah,
for
Instagram,
example. I
Facebook.
just follow the different channels I like. They feed me more of what I want to
And
see.
even if you don't follow those channels, let's say you're not a subscriber, these softwares, these platforms know everything about you, right? For example, I play tennis, so and I'm not subscribed to a single tennis coaching channel, but they serve me all
Right.
those videos about how to improve your serve. And because if I would curate that content, I would watch that thing. They know everything about me, right? So now it's more like a video on demand thing. But because of the AI in play, they automatically know that what is going to click for Faizan, right? What Faizan is going to like. So they're going to serve you that content. So with that happening, the focus, I think, instead of being on a 24/7 news channel, should be producing quality content for your audience. Then it would get served automatically. The way YouTube algorithms work, you know better than me, is like it's going to show that content to people who are looking for that content, even before they know that they're looking for that content. And
Yeah,
that
but the problem is that doesn't that create a more polarized society, which you're seeing actually around us today, right? The world is more polarized. Excuse me, the world is more polarized today than it was maybe, let's say, 15 years ago, right? And part of the reason could be because these algorithms are feeding me more of what my
yes,
opinion or what my inherent belief structure or my actions or my practices are. And therefore, they keep feeding it because the longer they can keep my eyeball, the better they can monetize me.
yeah. So their optimization, with
So they're
AI,
optimizing for my belief system, and
yes,
my belief system is then
yeah,
self
yeah,
strengthened through
yeah.
this. And therefore, I will never consider an alternate view because
Yeah.
I'm not being given an alternate view.
Yeah, you actually have to make a lot of effort to find the
So now
alternate.
this is the challenge, right? So let's say you have Capital TV, right? Capital TV sits in a bouquet of, let's say, 20 news channels, right? All I have to do is press a button, and I can go from pro establishment to pro democracy to pro people or socialism to pro whatever, whatever the narrative that, let's say, a channel is taking, right? And I can start seeing different views,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Now the problem is, if on Insta, if on Facebook, if on TikTok, the algorithms have figured out that you are a tennis guy and I'm a
yeah,
car guy,
yeah.
and I love seeing cars, then it will only ever show me cars.
Well,
I
okay.
will never be able to see
So
anything other than that, right?
absolutely. So 90% of the time, you're right,
So that
right?
that clicking on a TV channel that
Yeah,
allowed me to get five different perspectives, I no
yeah.
longer get that.
Yeah, you don't. So that there is a trade-off, right? So when I was studying computer science, one of our professors in UT Austin, where I went for my undergrad, used to always say that life, like, or computer science, computer engineering, like life, is a game of trade-offs, right? You would get something and you have to give up on something. You just have to see where, and we all have to work at improving those things, right? So
Right.
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, they're at the end of the day businesses, right? They maximize by keeping you on that platform, right? So it's not like these algorithms are static, right? So they keep on changing that, right? Initially, they used to show the content which is being liked the most, right? So or which was being clicked the most, right? So then it led to a lot of clickbait stuff, and so they had to change the algorithms. Now, after what happened with the whole Trump episode and the US presidential election, the question that you ask is that's what's being asked by the politicians, by the regulatory bodies, that we are just showing them what they want to watch. For example, if somebody only wants to watch crappy stuff, you're feeding him the crappy stuff, right? So this needs to change. The AI has to adapt, but at least you know how the AI is, right? It's not like you don't know how it works.
No, but
Unlike
let's say, okay, so I have a question on the AI, right? Can you mandate the AI to run? So, for example, let's say, okay, let me create the scenario. Do you think there could be a global scenario where AI could be regulated in that the AI is programmed in such a way that, feed this person 60% of what they like and what their interests are and what their behaviors are, but 40% of what they see has to be random stuff, new stuff every day, all the
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely, it's
But
absolutely.
but but don't they say AI self learns, and if they realize that, you know what, the
No, but you can
60%,
put a constraint in the system, right? If you can put a constraint in the system, then why not?
do you
Like
think there can be regulation around this to support this? Because then that way you have a
they
slightly more
would be like,
democratized
the
world.
tech companies hate regulations, right? A lot of them are going to kind of do some sort of self-regulation to tell the world that we're doing this thing, because at the end of the day, that's how they make money. Because by showing them the content, they also run the risk of like showing them the content they're not interested in. For example, you may not be interested in tennis at all, right? So they have to find some more correlation, like what is other than cars that Faizan likes, right? So
Nothing.
it will again be somewhat similar to what your interests are, right? They or what would he be open to this side kind of political active or like political thinking, or so it's complicated, it's not easy, but I'm a firm believer in technology improving lives and improving things. So I think we'll get there. So yeah, you just have to give it time. It's still much better than a single person or a government controlling what you want to hear. And that to me is very powerful. Like at
So,
least
but no, but it's the same thing. Hold on a second. You're saying here a single government that is comprised of individuals elected or not elected or whatever to office, right? In AI, you are dependent on a machine that is reprogramming itself, getting better at serving you more of what you want to see and do so that
so
you
there's a
have more
difference, right?
time. So technically it is the same thing, right? It's one
There's a
thing
slight
controlling you
difference,
here.
right? There is a slight difference. Right? You
Hmm.
still can reach out or look for more for other content. It's not that that content is not there or it's never going to be shown to you, right? For example, if I look for other content, I read an article or my friend shares something, and I start reading about it, it will start showing me something. So there is always an opportunity in a system where everything is rigged and controlled by certain people, right? You don't even hear this thing because you will be blacked out for showing this thing
So
again.
you're saying that in a rigged system, in a democratized AI based system, the choice is with you. You just have
Yeah,
to be less lazy to actually go out
yeah,
and exercise the
yeah.
choice. In
Yes,
the other system, you don't even have the choice.
yeah, you don't even have the choice.
And so the question is about choice then.
Yeah, and also the question is also about the sort of learning that we have to inculcate, as we grow up, or the skill sets that we have to acquire, right? So you just have to. I think the most unfortunate part is that even our education system, now that I look at it, it's like in Pakistan, to outdated hai, but even globally, the universe, like the way technology is evolving, uh, the universities have not really caught up to that, other than the grad schools where there's like cutting edge research happening, and where they do not care about like the courses and all, where they're focusing on the research and publications. The undergrad curriculums are lagging behind. Like for example, the world is moving really fast into this virtual reality, the metaverse sort of a thing. There is hardly any university in Pakistan, and maybe only a few which have actually good content or good courses on those things. So what do?
Hmm.
So most of these big companies who are leading this revolution actually hire the smart chaps and then train them, spend like invest in them to do these things, right? But I think what we have to do is like we have to learn that the college education system is one, but in parallel, this whole uh, online education sort of a thing has really emerged, and
So the Coursera,
the
the
Coursera, the all those things, and we have to really take advantage of
YouTube. I
that.
mean, YouTube itself is a
Absolutely.
university, yeah.
So I'm so glad that you mentioned about YouTube being the great learning resource. In fact, like
Hmm.
I have a practical example to share. So 2 years ago, decided that I'm gonna acquire the skill set of playing tennis, right? And I love that sport, and I was like, okay, but I want to be good at it, like not at the professional level, but somewhere where I could play decent. So as something that you would come across Pakistan, like you don't have the top-notch tennis coaches all
Yeah.
around, and so the facility that I played, we had decent coaches, and then I would play with other people around. more than 50% of my learning, how to serve better, how to play a topspin, it was through watching YouTube videos of international coaches about like slow motion videos. I would just stand out, watch those videos, replicate
Hmm.
them, and my game would improve, right? The other 25%, I would say, is by practicing all that what I did, and the last 25% would be from the local coaches, right? So if it wasn't for YouTube, I would not
50%.
be a
That's the foundation of the education. That too of a physical sport.
Yeah, imagine just a physical sport. Like if it was like my entire, for example, my AI thing, right? So 2011, 12, I moved back to Pakistan, and I got into something which is totally different from my educational qualification, and I got rusty with all my tech stuff. It wasn't until 2018 when I took a brief trip to the US and I ended up meeting my college friends there and my professors that I realized that there is something remarkable happening in the world. This was like where the AI was really taking off there. And it's like, I don't even like, I felt bad that I had not caught up with that. So I came back, I took a specialization with through Coursera on AI, like 5 really intense courses. And since then I've been just like racking up the AI knowledge. It was all online. I did
I
not
find
have.
this hilarious. You're a PhD from an Ivy League education, yet you are learning about what you learned about through a free digital platform.
Yeah, yeah, imagine.
Insane. Can you imagine? I mean,
And
then technically, what you're telling me is that none of the kids here need to leave and go and study abroad because all of the content is available here. So why
yes,
go? So
and
then,
I
what
think
is the education system providing us then at the end of the day? Like, does it need to fundamentally change to, because like you said, right, digital and AI leaves everything there available to us for us to choose from. So then, should our education system be teaching the young kids who will grow up in the next 10, 20 years how to ask questions or how to search for things? Because
yes,
I don't think our generations, especially in Pakistan, none of them know how to ask questions. None of them know how to question, let's say, things around them or search for things. They're just like, हाँ ये दिया हुआ है, इसी को बस लेके चलते हैं.
you've just like hit the nail there. Uh, Let me tell you, like just before this interview, right, this session, I interviewed 3 people for a job at our organization, right? Smart kids, doing well, very eager,
Yeah.
but none of, I asked them this question. They were interviewing for my other startup that I'm working on, and after the end of the interview, I asked them, "So, do you know what we are doing?" They said, we've heard about it. When I was like, have you visited our website? They had not. So they've come. One guy came from Ahmedabad, like took 2 hours drive, came here for an interview, saw an ad, but he never even tried to research what we were doing. He was just here for the interview. That to me is just
Like
that
they're
to me
not
is
even questioning. They're like, just
yeah,
please, bas aap de
yeah,
dein, job de
they
dein.
did, job they did, right? And to me, like, why would you, and I asked, like, why would you even want to interview with a company who you do not know anything about? So, to me, we're taking a lead from what you just said. Our education system has to just work on the fundamentals, the communication skills. I think we lack in those. Like,
I mean,
it's
we're
so
terrible.
important. It's so
Actually, we're negative.
yeah, the communication skills, the basic fundamental, calculus, math skills, and then also this thing that you said, asking questions. We have to make them knowledge seeking, where they know that they can find, inculcate the habit of reading so they can find anything. How did I do this thing? Because the US education system had prepared me, and then my life experiences, which led me to books and experiencing, exploring. I realized in the world that, and luckily, you can learn anything, anytime at a click of a button. I was just
Yeah.
wondering that if I was born 20 years prior to where I was, right? Imagine learning AI. I would have to go to a library. First of all, maybe I would never find a book.
Encarta encyclopedia का set होता घर में, taking up
Yeah.
half a
And
wall.
सोचो वो भी अपडेटेड नहीं होता था, और
हाँ,
एआई का पढ़ने के लिए लेट्स से मैं अपनी लोकल लाइब्रेरी में जाता एंड
वो
वहां
तो कुछ
पे
भी
एआई
नहीं
की
होता.
बुक ना होती तो मैं क्या करता,
Yeah.
या मे बी उधर एक 70s की ओल्ड प्रोफेसर की बुक होती एंड आई वुड बी रीडिंग दैट. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have done anything.
Yeah.
Now, through Coursera, through all these
edX,
Udacity,
yeah,
you know,
Udemy, oh, yeah,
yeah, you can learn anything. I
you can learn
recently,
anything, man.
like, I'm actually taking another course on metaverse. Like, how do you build a skill set? So the beauty, and that's what I want, like the viewers here, especially the younger ones who are interested in this thing. Look, in this age, you should be focusing on one of these things, and that is acquiring skills and keeping up to date. And for acquiring skills, you don't need to go to Cornell, you don't need to go to a top university. You can just use one of these platforms to acquire a skill and then start applying it. even the likes of Google and Facebook are now not just looking at your degrees. Yes, degrees tell them a lot about your consistency, how focused you are. Do you have a pattern of, work
Achievement.
achievement and all, right? Whether you have certain skill set and all. But they're increasingly judging you on your skill set. And now there is no barrier. Sitting in Pakistan, if I can specialize in AI and get and be up to date with it, so can anyone be.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny, like even for the metaverse, that's something I just kind of like have been acquiring a lot of information, knowledge on, and I'm subscribed to a lot of these different pages that feed information. The entire space, NFTs, metaverse, if you think about it, is only 2 years old or maybe
Yeah,
3 years old,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So the expert in the space is someone with 36 months of knowledge.
yeah.
And then that expert could be anywhere in the world. Just because they dabbled in it for 36 months, they're the expert, right? And that's, I think, the thing that is missing here as well. You raised the point around interviews and candidates coming to you without any knowledge of your business. My favorite question that I ask in every interview that I have, at the end of the interview, I ask them, any questions for me? Now, here
Yeah,
is your opening. Your
yeah,
opening, you can
yeah,
ask me. And you know what? My intention always is to give them an open answer on anything they ask
yeah.
about. Out of 100, maybe two people ask a
Yeah, same
question.
number
And you
here.
know what? And you know what question they ask?
Yeah.
What are the office hours like? And I mean, are there? Is there any
No, imagine
perks
the
other
worst,
than that? I was like,
the best question that I've had. So, if this one person had the worst interview, imagine possibly that one can imagine with me. Like he was just like messing up every question, and then as like, do you have any questions for me? So when can I expect the job offer? And I was just like, wow,
oh,
I
that guy's
so
that's a confident guy. I would have offered him
yeah,
the job
yeah,
right then. I would have been
absolutely.
like, I like your confidence.
So, but I think I don't blame them. It's the system. The system does not promote people thinking, and that's why you see people like the amount of fake news that kind of gets shared and circulated. Like, guys, sometimes basic thing, just Google it. Just before sharing something fake, we are just like,
Why would they Google it? Because it's easy to share it, man.
no, it's easy
It's
to share.
easier to share it, and I know I'll get a rise from at
Yeah,
least five of my friends.
yeah,
So I might as well share it and like have a little laugh out of it, right? And the
yeah,
problem is that in the process, you end up maybe sharing it to some people who start believing it, and they're like, "Oh my god, is this really true?"
yeah.
And so now you've got these. There are two realities that are running, which is the actual reality of facts, and then there's this parallel reality of fiction that is being perpetuated by different parts of your society.
True, true.
Which one do you subscribe to now? And then if there are two parts of society believing two different realities, which reality is actually real at the end of it? Because
It's the
digital makes everything seem real.
Yeah, yeah, it does, and that's what the whole question about, what is the role of education, right? I think the role of education fundamentally has to train you to question and to seek knowledge. That's it. Like I think that's what we have to center around. The rest of the skill sets, education, I think our education system should train people to start seeking, acquiring skill sets of their own. Like, if I could learn tennis by watching Federer's slow hand serve motion, right, while sitting here and looking at his
Mhm.
videos, and then making my wife kind of take a video of me so in slow motion so I can compare those things. Anyone can do that thing, right? These are everything's are fundamentally so. It's that you can question yourself and you can learn anything, just about anything. And that to me is a great opportunity. And why it is just not for me but for Pakistan as well. Like, recently I was with one of the political leaders of the country, and we were just discussing something, and a discussion came up that how do we, where is Pakistan headed, right? And to be honest, I feel as where we stand today, we're really going down, and it's a very hopeless situation. Why is that? Every year you would hear the prices of the cars going up. You're a car enthusiast, like how a
It's
Honda.
terrible. You can't
Yeah,
afford
you
a
know,
car
I
anymore.
think 7 million for a Honda Civic or 8 million for that. It's ridiculous, right? And then the property price is going up, everything going up. And then I was like, it's not that anything has gone up. It's just like our rupee has gone down. Like the problem is not with other things getting expensive. The problem is that you are getting poorer by the day. And the reason is that our economy, our entrepreneurs are just focusing on Pakistan. I think we, over the next, whoever comes into power and all, and whatever they're planning to do, they need to focus on one thing: exports. That's it. And for the longest of time, we've just been focused on exporting clothes, right? Like, even not even the finished products, just like that. We're not going to be able to compete with the world on that. The way digital has opened up these opportunities for us, what Pakistan, the Gen Z and millennials need to focus on is think beyond Pakistan, target the global audience. Through digital, once you put something online on YouTube, you're not restricted to Pakistan. So why are you restricting your content to Pakistan? You can actually start doing wonders. McKinsey came up with a report that metaverse based economies are going to account for $5 trillion in the global
Wow.
economy by 2030. Just imagine taking 1% share of that thing. Even
That's unbelievable. And that economy is not even real. I mean, it's all animated. It's literally all right here
digital.
on this laptop.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
completely digital.
You just need this computer.
You're
And
selling clothes, you're
yeah,
selling branded product online.
yeah.
That doesn't exist. To
Yeah.
characters that are not real, run by real humans at the back. It's unbelievable. And
And,
Pakistan can
and
easily play a role.
we can, and the thing is, like, for us to understand this thing, we really need to understand the younger generation, right? The millennials and Gen Z, because a lot of times when I speak with people who are, like, older, it's like, what sort of nonsense is this, like digital avatar and all this thing? Guys, you need to spend time with these kids. For them, their digital identity is way more important than what t-shirt they might be wearing, right? The gaming industry
The way
started.
their avatar is dressed
Yeah,
is as important, if not more,
more
as the
actually.
way they are dressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're spending 4 to 5 hours there, right? They feel much more comfortable. And this is the generation that's going to lead there, right? So I feel there is an immense opportunity there for anyone in Pakistan to work on this thing. We can take our IT exports per year to $100 billion per year just by focusing on these two, three things: metaverse related technologies, like the whole Web3, like the whole, like AI, this whole AR, everything related to this API based programming paradigm, just software, 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 right? When we were growing up, people used to say become a doctor, an engineer, or a CSS officer, right? Now, when you talk to these kids, they aspire to be YouTubers like you
Yeah.
now, right? CK? They aspire to be, they want to be, doing something in crypto and all.
Yeah.
So our decision makers really, first of all, have to evolve. I don't know how they're going to evolve. They really need to understand this
Why
generation.
would they evolve when the current decision serves them well, right? You're asking them to evolve from a state in which their lives are not affected. Their everyday living is okay. They're still getting food on the table. They're still able to buy an 8 million rupee Civic. So
Yeah,
why
but
would they change? The
that's why.
young people, the population, the mass economy is that, sorry, the mass population is the one that's affected, right? It's actually the population that has to change. And unless the population rises and raises their voice and demands change or asks
I
the
think
question,
in
which, by the way,
Pakistan
we
it's
both
already in
discussed.
Pakistan it's already happening, right? Our political parties are not realizing this thing. Like, at least the traditional political parties, they see that. So, for example, I'll take a leap here. Like, Imran Khan has hit tremendous, like, the greatest popularity that I've seen, at least in my lifetime, of any political leader. Why he's been able to do so? Because he's been able to connect most ably with
That's
the
true.
Gen Z and the millennials, right? The other
Correct.
parties are saying that, oh, he's वो उनको गंदी बातें सिखा रहा है, वो उसने तमीज और इसका खत्म कर दिया हुआ है. बात ये है कि he connected with them, he is targeting them, and that's why he's been able to attract them. What the other parties are not, they're still living in the 70s and the 80s. How could you target a person who was born in the mid 90s or the 2000s to resonate with you when you're still raising the slogans of the 70s and the 80s? And that is where his popularity is. He's not like, the messiah, or like, the solution for everything. But in his case, we have an example of somebody connecting with the audience and then just resonating.
But okay, fine. I'll even subscribe to what you're saying, and he's resonating, and then he comes in and he brings change, and that change takes the next 5 to 10 years. There are many other stakeholders. It's not just one political leader. I will ask you a question that I asked. I was I do these guest lectures at IBA here, and I asked a room full of students. I think it was maybe about 300 students, and I said, if you all had a U.S. passport right now, we're given a U.S. passport right now, on the condition that you can never set foot in Pakistan again, how many of you will take it? Right?
What was the answer?
And my dude, I was blown away. 90% of the class raised their hand.
Yeah.
And I reiterated, I said, guys, you cannot come back. It is for you only, not your parents, not your siblings, just you. Are you going to leave and not come back? I think only maybe 5 or 6 people have changed their minds. It was 80 to 90% of the class raised their hands and kept them up. And
I
so my
know.
question is, with a population, a young population that is so frustrated that they're willing to walk away and never come back, do you really think that anyone would be interested in this long-term solution of building the IT exports and committing to learning and questioning and building their own skill set online when all they want is a way to get out of here?
So I think the way I look at it is like you're absolutely right. I'm not even surprised at that answer. I think most and
I was shocked, man. I thought
yeah,
I was like, okay, 50%, chalo, theek hai.
rightfully
Some people want
so,
to stay.
Faizan, rightfully so. Like like I said, like shared with you, the system here is heavily rigged in favor of the mafias, in favor of the people who are controlling their country, and then they get disenfranchised when they look at our political leaders. You know, the way things are being run, like their family fiefdoms all around there. There's no merit. Like the people who become ministers with absolutely no experience in their relative field. Like you've studied, you worked hard in your field, and you're not valued. And there's a guy who has absolutely no background just because he happens to be connected or be a son or a
Have the
daughter of
right
somebody.
friends.
Yeah. And they just do that, right? So, but what can we do to change it? Like I said, again, the most important thing now I tell everyone amongst my cousins, my younger cousins, nephew, nieces, that they want to focus on is stop thinking yourself as a Pakistani citizen. Start embracing this concept of a
Very well
global
said.
citizen, right? The moment you do that, and the fact that 20 years ago this thinking was not possible, but now because of the digital age, like you've just said, we have the audience, right? I can create something and sitting here target somebody in Turkey, in Argentina, in the US, right? So that skill set that you acquire here, there are certain inherent advantages here too. The labor cost here, the other costs here of setting up are much lower compared to other parts of the world because our
True.
currency is really devalued, right? So if you acquire that skill set and start using these social and digital platforms, you can start raking in money, not just for yourself, but bringing in that money into Pakistan, and as a result, strengthening your economy, right? So the moment we stop thinking as Pakistanis only and start thinking beyond. That's what the Indians did, right? A lot of those Indians, when they were creating IT, they were not just creating IT for just within India. Indian market was too small for them. They started creating for the outside market. The Chinese did it too. Their biggest exports are in the US, the country that they have the biggest issues with. So the export mindset and combined with the IT mindset of global citizenship. We should be proud global citizens that we are expanding everywhere, and that's what the change is. And then you have both opportunities, right? By acquiring that skill set, by creating something here, it's not stopping you from ever going to the US, right? So you're still creating more opportunities for yourself.
I think that's the best thing you've said is we're global citizens. It doesn't matter where we live anymore because as long as you have a 4G or a data connection, you can access anything, anywhere, anytime. You can create anything, anywhere, anytime, and you can monetize that thing that you have created.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the future. You're absolutely right. And with the metaverse in place, the one thing that I tell a lot of people is there was this great movie by Steven Spielberg, 2018, Ready Player One.
Oh, what a movie! What
I
a movie!
think
The
I
moment
think
I
that
watched the
is
movie, and the book itself
yeah,
is even better. Like with the
yeah,
moment I watched the movie, it was really intense. It took me a couple of sittings
yeah,
to go through the movie, but
yeah.
when I watched it, I told myself that 10 years
I think
later,
that is the future. I
that's
think
the
that
future.
and that I think is the future of Pakistan. Actually, is that you can actually uplift people from the most downtrodden areas and they can live that future and be happy in that future because at least their basics are sorted out and they're able to have happiness in a virtual sort of alternate reality is what I think. That's just my
Yeah.
view, but
I'll just like to add one thing, and I think technology, along with this deeper understanding and realization about the mental health, right? The mindfulness and all those things, and we've had private, personal discussions on these things. I think at some point that awareness about that has to come in play, because we will see a lot of people getting depressed with technology taking over, and this
we're seeing it
entire
now.
yeah,
Instances of
yeah.
depression within teens have gone up
Yeah.
here.
For example, initially, like when people were living in 20 years ago, they would only compare themselves to the surrounding, the group of 10, 15 people. Now you instantly
You're
compare
comparing
yourself
yourself to
to
the
all.
world.
Yeah, like for example, people are never happy because it's like, oh,
Man,
somebody.
it's like, on Instagram, the problem is like now it's almost so obviously it feeds me things and it feeds you things. It feeds me things about entrepreneurs. And I literally am looking on Instagram, I'm like, holy crap, every single entrepreneur in the world has a successful business making $1 million a day. Like, what the hell am
Yeah,
I doing wrong?
yeah,
Like I'm the dumb one. What happened, man?
yeah,
So it's
and
like
it
it's
affects you.
just
It affects
yeah.
you, right? So it
It
affects.
affects you. It affects you.
I think the
So I
most
think
one thing. This is sorry, just the one thing that I think the entrepreneurs out there too, and I intend to do this thing. Start sharing your over this journey of 10 years. I think I've had, like, if I were to sum up the days, maybe 9 years have been terrible, and maybe in terms of the number of days, maybe like 50 or 100 days have been great. But we only share about those 50 or 100 days, right?
that's
We
true.
need to, it's our responsibility to start sharing about those crazy, messy days when we just wanted to give up on everything and just run away. So I think because that will give the context, but not most people don't like to share that. And yeah, so over to you.
That's actually a valid point. We're out of time, and as I'm saying we're out of time, I think I've decided that we're actually not out of time because I'm going to do a second version of this with you because I'm not done with you. I feel like there's a lot more that we haven't covered or we haven't talked about. So you need to give me one more slot, maybe in a
Sure.
couple of weeks, and we're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to fill in some of the gaps on actual steps that we can take because I would love for us to at least provide a roadmap. We've talked about okay what the future looks like for the youth here, but maybe in the next version let's actually provide some tangible steps, a roadmap of what exactly needs to be done at what time points and
Yeah.
what that will yield in terms of a result. So stay tuned everyone. Basit is going to be back. Thanks a lot, Basit. I'm so glad we
Thank
did
you.
this and
Thank
I'm so
you.
glad I was the first time you actually did an interview.
Yes, yes, of course. And I'm so glad
I'm
as well. It
honored,
has to
man.
be
I'm
good.
honored.
No, 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 no. Thank you
So
so much.
we'll have you again. Stay tuned, everyone, for the next one, and hope you enjoyed this episode with Basit. Do check out his Capital TV on YouTube. Don't watch TV. No one watches TV anymore, but go check it out on YouTube. He gets paid on YouTube better than he does on TV. And we will be following some interesting stuff from Basit on in the world of AI as well. So thanks again, Basit. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.